upside running back in redraft leagues last year. A lot of people were skeptical about him as a rookie, and I'm seeing the redraft guys drag his name through the mud.
Yeah, Steph, you're absolutely right. Cam Akers is a guy that we saw a very small sample size from last season, but he's currently going in that range that's like back of the first round, early second round. So if you do end up with a late first round pick in your draft, I think Cam Akers is a perfect guy to target, whether it be in the late first or early second. If you can come out of round 1 and 2, if you start out in the 10, 11, or 12 spot with Cam Akers and Joe Mixon or Austin Eckler and Cam Akers or any combination of these backs, I think you are going to be absolutely set for some extreme success. And Akers is still only 21 years old. He's about to turn 22 for the 2021 season. But we know what Sean McVay's offenses can look like in terms of a workhorse running back. We saw Todd Gurley have those insane RB1 seasons, the overall running back one with Sean McVay in LA. So I'm excited for Akers this year. You know, that sample size we talked about at the end of last year was the last 4 weeks of the regular season, where he had 21 carries and 3 targets per game. He also saw 23 carries per game in 2 playoff appearances. So if that workload is any sort of sign of things that are to come in 2021, I think Cam Akers is as safe as they come with some upside as well.
And the pushback that I'm getting, and I got it even on our live stream, shout out to our boy Anthony, sending us a question from a live stream. And that's, Alex and I are super pumped up. We did our first live stream. It was a full 12-team PPR mock draft on our channel the other day. Have plenty more of those to come. So like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because we're going to be doing a lot more Q&As and live streams as the season goes on. And we're all about those mock drafts. But the pushback that I was seeing on our live stream was, well, isn't Darrell Henderson, however you say his name, isn't Henderson going to be taking away some volume from Cam Akers? And my thinking is no. And I'm extremely high on Cam Akers. But when I look at Darrell Henderson, I want to talk about him for a moment. To me, he's a poor man's Ronald Jones for 2021. And what I mean by that is they're both these bursty running backs that don't necessarily get a lot of the high value touches. They're not getting used on the goal line. They're not necessarily used a ton in the passing game. They got a similar breakaway run rate. Henderson had a 4.3%. Ronald Jones had 4.2%. So very similar as far as how often they're breaking away these chunk plays. Obviously, we know Ronald Jones has those 90-yard breakaway runs in his wheelhouse. And then Henderson's 5'8", 208. Ronald Jones, 5'11", 205 pounds. So very similar physique-wise. Both run about 4.5 40s. And they can have, these certain games where they're going to get maybe multiple targets and a touchdown or two. They have some handcuff upside at best when you're on a board in a redraft league. But I say he's a poor man's Ronald Jones because he was less relied upon. Only saw 9 carries and 1.6 targets per game last year. And at least Ronald Jones averaged double-digit carries and 3 targets. Now, I say all that to say I want to make this comparison. I'm sure Darrell Henderson is going to have some random boom weeks when one of his 8 to 12 carries goes to the house. But the team showed us, just like the team showing us with Ronald Jones, where, look, he's going to have boom weeks. You don't know when they're going to come. The team showed us that they don't trust him to be the number one, that he's the handcuff. And with Darrell Henderson, he was 39th among running backs in weighted opportunities. And that puts in added premiums for carries in the red zone, targets. They don't use him as a pass catcher at all. Darrell Henderson. He averaged 9 routes per game, 44th in the NFL in terms of routes run per game. He had a single 3-reception game the whole time Cam Akers was out last year. He didn't have more than 2 receptions in a Jared Goff, Sean McVay offense, even when he had the backfield to himself. So I don't trust Darrell Henderson. I don't see him as a threat. He's a guy that I'm selling all shares of in Dynasty and gets me more excited for Cam Akers. So the same way you're not going to fade Ezekiel Elliott because of Tony Pollard, the same way you're not going to fade Alvin Kamara because of Latavius Murray. That's how I'm viewing the Akers situation.
It's funny because you say, do you think Darrell Henderson is going to get some work in this offense? You said, no, I'm not concerned about the work. I actually disagree with you that I think Henderson will see work in this offense, but I agree with you in the sense that I don't think it bothers my opinion of Cam Akers at all, because if you look at the numbers last season, you mentioned like the 8-9 carries per game. I think that's going to hold constant this year. I mean, last year, Darrell Henderson saw 138 carries. He should be somewhere in that range. We're not going to see Cam Akers come out there and be the next Christian McCaffrey playing 90+% of snaps. But if Darrell Henderson comes out and gets his 138 carries he saw last season, or even up to like 150, and Cam Akers just sees the work he got last year, plus the vacated work that Malcolm Brown is leaving behind, that leaves Cam Akers at 240 carries and 45 targets. That's Jonathan Taylor last season. So even if Darrell Henderson has the same exact role in this offense that he played last season, and all Akers does is add in that vacated workload for Malcolm Brown, you're getting JT level of volume in a Rams offense that should be pretty good.
Great points. Great points there. And continuing this analogy with Ronald Jones, you know, he has Leonard Fournette to worry about. But in the case of Darrell Henderson, he has a true workhorse back that his team went out and drafted in the second round. And this is the LA Rams. This is a team notorious for trading away their first-round pick. Akers was the guy they went out and circled, was essentially their first pick in the 2020 draft, and they circled him to be a workhorse, and the last 6 games just confirmed it. And Akers has been great since he entered the league. That's why we love him, both in Dynasty and redraft. He carried his offense in college. The Rams knew what they were getting when they went out and selected him. Akers broke out in 2017 as an 18-year-old freshman with over 1,000 rushing yards. Again, as an 18-year-old freshman in the ACC in a Power 5 conference, like, that's tremendous. He developed as a receiver every year until he declared early for the NFL. And he was responsible for 40% of Florida State's offensive production. That's a 90th percentile dominator rating among running back prospects, courtesy of Player Profiler. So we know Akers is an elite prospect. I'm not saying he's an elite player quite yet, but I'm saying he's an elite prospect coming into the league. And Akers had a severe injury last year. He had a rib cartilage separation. And if that sounds painful to you, your rib cartilage separating from your rib cage, it's because it's extremely painful. It's not a casual injury that you can just bounce back from. It took him out for most of the season, and we saw he was slowly getting worked into that offense. So that took him out for much of his rookie year. What we saw at the end of the season is what he was always intended to be. His body had to adapt to the NFL. You know, and you said it. He was 21 years old last year. So he's had his growing pains becoming a pro athlete. And now he's ready to be unleashed in this offense. And I have him as a set it and forget it RB1 in redraft this year. Love stacking Akers and another running back at the 1-2 turn. He's the perfect size-speed combo for running back. He was already seeing a 12% target share in college. We should expect him to be used even more in the passing game. That's probably the one, red flag, if you want to call it that, based on what he did last year. But he has the college production. He has the draft capital. He has the measurables. His only question is that passing game usage. And at worst, we have Matt Stafford stepping in, who's going to help the offense. We've seen Matt Stafford feed the running back position through the air. We had Theo Riddick from 2015 to 2018 seeing 99, 67, 71, and 74 targets. And he just threw DeAndre Swift 57 passes as a rookie. So you add in the fact that the Rams' offensive line has improved. Their schedule's a little bit rough to start the year. Chicago, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay. But then after that, it's going to be smooth sailing for Akers and really all the Rams' pieces on offense, because they play Arizona, Seattle, the Giants, the Lions, the Texans, and the Tennessee Titans after the first 3 weeks. So it's going to be a fun stretch. I've been starting these drafts with Eckler and Akers. Feels like a slam dunk in redraft leagues right now. You get 2 league-winning running back ones to start your draft.
That's the dream. And Steph, you mentioned the offensive line. They actually graded 3rd per PFF in 2020, which is fantastic. It's a huge bounce back versus where they were after 2019. And they're ranked as the 8th overall unit per PFF heading into 2021. So take that for what you will, whether You like Pro Football Focus's rankings or not, but they're being graded highly, and they made some significant improvements up front, which is just another reason to like Cam Akers. And really, the upside with Akers is there for me because we've seen Sean McVay offenses have unlimited explosive upside. I mean, if you look at the Rams back in 2017, they were the number one scoring offense. In 2018, they were second. So 2 straight years of a top 2 scoring offense. In 2019, we see them drop down to 11th. And then last season, they were the number 23 scoring offense. So a pretty rough year with Jared Goff at quarterback. But now they're able to retool with the offensive line we talked about, with Matt Stafford coming in as quarterback, with Cam Akers shifting into this workhorse role. They bring in some extra tertiary receivers to help stretch the field of the draft. And they could be back to a top 10 scoring team in 2021. So if the flashes we saw from Akers in 2020 are something that we liked, and we certainly did, I think the sky's the limit in 2021, because if the total points that they are putting up increases like we think it's going to, and they're even a top half scoring offense, which I think you, I, and most other people would project them to be. I think the touchdown upside for Akers is well into the double digits, which is something that could take him way over the top and give him, honestly, top 5 upside in LA.
The Rams on the biggest stage were giving Cam Akers over 21 touches per game. So just imagine if that plays itself out. He's going to be a workhorse. He's going to see all the touches we want him to see as far as red zone, goal line, receptions, all of it. And he was an efficient runner even as a rookie dealing with injury in a shortened offseason. You got to get excited for Cam Akers.